Hello and welcome to the Carbon Copy Podcast Running Out of Time special. I'm Isabel Sparrow and for today's episode we're travelling from Bristol to Bath, starting at the beautiful Watercress Farm, a rewilding project that is part of the Belmont estate, and finishing up at an Imaginarium event for athletes and other members of the sporting community held in Bath last night. Our first guest today is Gil Martin, Head of Estates at Belmont. We recorded this chat yesterday prior to the relay baton arriving, and as with so many of the conversations I've had for this podcast, I could have talked to Gil for hours about this incredibly inspiring project. If you're interested to learn more about Watercress Farm or any of the other initiatives mentioned in this episode, do check out the show notes.
So my name's Gil Martin. I'm the Director of Estates and Natural Capital here at Belmont. And Belmont is an environmental organisation seeking to deliver impact for climate, nature and community. So we regen farm, we rewild, we connect communities to nature and each other. Although we started as an estate, as the Belmont estate, that was the beginning of our journey around 10 years ago, and maybe a bit more. We've now become a group or a family of land holdings and projects. And the vision has crystallised and become about scaling our values and creating opportunities for impact. So Watercress Farm we acquired in 2019 because it was a really useful proxy for so much of the agricultural land in the UK. And we acquired it with the explicit desire to rewild it, which is to try and restore some of the natural processes which underpin our natural world. So not to aim for any specific outcomes. I've worked on projects before with specific species objectives. And just to take an example, you might be managing a site for the care and promotion and preservation of something like a natterjack toad. And natterjack toads don't like trees, for example, so you tend to discourage or maybe even remove trees on a site. And you find yourself in this very bizarre situation where you are managing a site to the exclusive benefit of one feature. And so rewilding is not objective focused like that. Rewilding seeks to restore the natural processes that, if they are healthy and functioning and connected and complex, will provide the species as a result rather than as the objective. And so we think about pre-agricultural intensification landscape. So something a bit like the New Forest. It's a patchwork quilt of grazing animals and mixed scrub and structural diversity and species diversity. Our version of rewilding is to seek to restore those natural processes, starting with mixed grazing. So none of those animals are fed anything. There are no interior fences. They get to roam across what is a 130-acre site with exercising their natural behaviours, choosing where they graze, choosing where they rootle, delivering disturbance, which is an ecological term. There's a big difference between disturbance and damage. And so they're rootling, they're browsing, they're grazing, they're rubbing and fraying of trees, all multiplied by each other, give you this exponential difference and diversity in a landscape and provide opportunities and niche for other species and other occupiers. And when you compare that to a conventionally farmed landscape, which might have maybe one set of disturbances, it might be a dairy farm and it has one input and one output, or very few inputs and very few outputs, that just by mixing the impacts of multiple different herbivores in one place, then you've got this exponential growth in difference and diversity, just as stage one. And then we're looking at and have delivered a rewetting project, and we are looking at natural regeneration, and we're looking at standing and fallen deadwood and decay, and so everything we can do to restore natural processes. And that happens to be the backdrop. Once you've created a landscape that you're hugely passionate about and a set of processes that you genuinely believe in, then it's inevitable that you're going to want to try and share and welcome people to that project and use it as a catalyst for change and for inspiration and for education. And so it's the home of our nature connection piece. So at Watercress Farm, we so far have welcomed more than 4,000 children through our Nature Connection programme for free, and they're children from preschool through the school system to outside of the school system in charities and other organisations, all being given the opportunity to explore and to climb and to learn and wonder from the natural world. The reality is we all need nature in our lives. And so our mission as an organisation is utter and total representation for our nature connection. So to start with, we reached out to schools and to charities, and we set up a preschool summer holiday club, and we're now really focusing our attention on adults and maybe looking at retirement homes and things like that. And to start with, we reached out to these organisations, and I think there was an element of having to sell the concept to them because they didn't necessarily know who we were, or it was new, or it was surprising that it was free. That dynamic has definitely changed over the last couple of years, and now we're oversubscribed and we're having to scale our resource so that we can do more and more of the thing we're so passionate about. And at the same time, and in parallel, we've got this community of nature volunteers, which started only a couple of years ago, and now we've got more than 300 people who regularly come to the site to be involved in this project, which in a kind of background narrative of dismay and a sort of sense of impotence in the face of the big challenges that we're facing as a society. This project, I think, feels hopeful. So it's really catalysed a lot of interest from our local community, and so we've got this vibrant volunteer group, which we're really proud of. The answer to every question, it turns out, is diversity. And so one of the things that I think needs to be sidestepped and avoided is this kind of vortex of criticism. As long as what you're doing tomorrow is better than what you were doing today, then it's a bloody good start. And let's try and work together and collaborate rather than waste our time and energy criticising and positioning ourselves as right and wrong. Because the reality is none of us genuinely know what's right or wrong. All we can really aim for is better. And as long as you're aiming for better, then let's get on with it. We have less than 10 years to change the direction of travel fundamentally in terms of climate and nature. And so there is no time for anything which slows us down.
Gil's message there is, of course, what the Climate Relay is all about, and the idea of doing things imperfectly rather than not at all is one I've come across from many of the guests we've spoken to so far for this podcast special. Following the visit to Belmont, the baton was carried into Bristol City Centre, where members of a local plogging group organised by Planet Earth Games took part in the leg. In case you've not heard of plogging, it's a cross between a litter pick and a jog, basically a way of doing good whilst doing exercise. Rohan from the Relay crew recorded this brief chat with Planet Earth Games founder Chris Broadbent.
Hi, my name's Chris Broadbent, founder of Planet Earth Games. We created Planet Earth Games about 4 years ago now, during the pandemic. It's about using sport as a tool of inspiration to get people more involved with climate action, connect them to nature, and look after their well-being. Well, we have been out on one of the legs of the Race Against Time Climate Relay, and we host a plogging group in Bristol as well, so it seemed very apt for us to deliver some plogging as part of this leg. So together with the good people here, a good crowd of people here from vegan runners and green runners, Race Against Zero, and other people, did a bit of plogging, we've taken a bit of climate action, and we've had a good 5K run as well, carrying the baton. We just share a great ethos with the organisers. We believe in physical activity and climate action, so it was just a natural partnership for us.
The final stop of the day was down the road in Bath. The relay baton made its way to the university, where a gathering of sports enthusiasts organised by Champions for Earth took place. Yasmin from Carbon Copy joined the event and caught up with both Champions for Earth co-founder Etienne Stott and his partner Laura Baldwin to learn more about where the Imaginarium concept came from and how they plan to roll it out in other places.
My name's Laura Baldwin. I'm an Olympic sailor, 2 times Olympic sailing coach, and I'm getting prepared with my partner Etienne Stott, Olympic gold medalist, to go to Paris Olympics to run these sustainability workshops that we've just done here today at the Running Out of Time Relay. We call them sport imaginariums because we've spoken to social scientists and behavioural psychologists that say that having a beautiful, engaging, optimistic vision of the future that's truly sustainable is really powerful to excite and unite people into making sustainable behaviour changes and making that future come to life. And it's pretty critically important that we do make these changes, and engaging people in this fun and collaborative and exciting way is just so powerful. To engage people in coming up with the ideas themselves, they're much more likely to actually start making those changes happen. So the inspiration, initially I was like, oh, we've got to have emergency meetings, sports need to hold emergency meetings and declare a climate emergency, and it just shuts people down, switches them off. You know, it's too, if you make it scary, but if you make it fun, engaging, exciting, then people are more likely to engage in it. So it was a gentleman called Rob Hopkins from Transition Together that inspired us to engage people's imaginations in visioning a future we want and need, and the power and beauty behind that. Well, if you go to sportlocal.earth, we've actually got a flat pack so people can take what it is that we're doing into their local club and run them themselves, or just get in touch with us and book us to come and do it for you.
So my name is Etienne Stott. I'm an Olympic gold medalist in the sport of canoe slalom from the London 2012 Games, and nowadays I'm an environmental activist and campaigner. It's interesting how you end up in such a thing, because I think it started when I was in Scouts, just playing out in nature, enjoying. We had some fantastic leaders who took us on all sorts of adventures, and I think that sowed the seed of appreciating the wonder of nature. And of course, as an athlete, we got to travel the world and visited some beautiful, amazing places, and lucky enough to have done some, really fantastic, trips. But now realizing that it is all under threat, that in fact a lot of those things that I did, I couldn't do now with a clear conscience, motivated by the future of my community, the canoeing community, and also, my friends' kids, and in fact everybody and all beings. I really want to somehow protect them and do the right thing, which is to look after them and to save them from as much harm as possible. So the running out of time relay is super cool. I really like the concept. I think it's a really good idea to try to shine a spotlight on all the amazing work that's being done all around the country. The concept of moving this baton by human-powered means is just really nice. And I think it also is using that power of sport that is so relatable to so many people, that connects people. The power of sport does have a role to play in tackling this climate and nature crisis, in my view, and I think the relay is a really good example of that. Today we did a sport imaginarium, which is basically a combination of imagination and gymnasium. So we really try to get people thinking about what a future that is truly healthy and sustainable for sport could look like, because we know that in sport we routinely use a vision of a champion or a medal or achieving a certain distance or time or weight or whatever it would be. We use that vision, we use an idea to power us, to give us the energy to overcome the barriers that inevitably we come across, to overcome the inertia, the doubts, to face the challenge that we want to. And we're trying to use that same sporting mindset to address the climate and nature crisis. So we're trying to get people to think about what the future could be like, where sport has made this transition, how healthy, how wonderful it could be, how much good it would be doing, what sport would be like. It would be accessible and inclusive. It would be truly awesome to be involved in. And if people realise that we could make that happen as we transition out of this harmful way of doing things into a truly healthy way of doing things, I think that's a really nice thing to try. I think the thing for me is that sport has this unique power to communicate, to connect, and to inspire people, to show people what human beings are capable of, not just physically, but also in the way that they act in the world, the way that they rise to challenge, the way that they try to work to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat, to come back from being 10 points down to winning gloriously. And that's kind of the mindset and the emphasis that we need now. So I'm constantly inspired by what I see as the unique energy and mindset and power of sport that could be applied to the situation that we're in right now.
What a wonderful and energising message to end on. If you're part of a sports club or any other kind of group that you think could benefit from Etienne and Laura's Imaginariums, check out the show notes for more information. Thank you to all of the guests we featured today. This episode of the Carbon Copy podcast was written and presented and edited by me, Isabel Sparrow. Additional interviews recorded by Rohan Date and Yasmin Redfern. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow, so do tune in. Until then, thanks for listening and goodbye.